Today we will talk about dark fantasies, darkest fantasies of the West. It is the balkanization of Russia. A plan is being made to repeat what transpired back in 1991. Who is behind such wild plans? Are these plans even feasible? And how it could prove to be a suicidal move in long run? We will discuss in this video. Hi and welcome. You're watching Outright. We tell you the right side of the story. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for such outright videos. Last week, we witnessed a major escalation in the Ukraine war. On Thursday, Western media reported that a Russian partisan group had seized a small border village of Russia. This was a rare case of saboteurs entering Russia to carry out an attack. It made Russian President Vladimir Putin cancel his planned visit to the Caucasus area. Reports suggest that the attack was carried out by the Russian Volunteer Corps. The outfit has ties to the Ukrainian military. But the question arises, why did Western media call it Russian partisan group? Are there any groups who want freedom from Russia? Or is it just a Western fantasy? Russia is engaged in a war. Its military has grown weaker. And now Western media is propagating a belief that there are groups that want to further break Russia. And not just the West. China too is eyeing Russian land. China has issued a new regulation, a regulation to change the names of Russian territories. The Russian territories have been given old Chinese names. The largest port in Russia's far east, Vladivostok, has been renamed as Hashenwai, the same place which is gateway for Russia's Pacific Fleet. This wasn't all. 7 more Russian cities were given Chinese names. Chinese believe that the places belong to them as they lost it in Qing China. The same China and Russia who are supposedly in a no limits partnership. So, China wants a piece of Russia, and West, it wants Russia to be in pieces. And why not? They say, strike when the iron is hot. But can Russia be actually broken? Yes, that is exactly what happened in August of 1991. And Europe and US have plans to do it again, to again dismantle the Russian borders. Large amounts of money are being used to instill ethnic nationalism among the various Russian ethnicities. Conferences are being held outside of Russia to encourage separatist movements. The plan of breaking up has been referred to as the decolonization of Russia. It gives the impression that this goal is anti-imperialist and progressive. In millennial terms, it sounds cool. On January 31st, at the European Parliament in Brussels, delegates gathered for a conference on the possibilities of decolonizing Russia. The meeting was organized by MEPs from the European Conservatives and Reformist ECR political group of the European Parliament. Such a gathering took place in US too in June last year. The US government's Helsinki Commission organized a congressional briefing. The gathering intended to find ways to break up Russia, terming it as an act of decolonization. The participants advocated for freedom for many republics in the Russian Federation. It included Chechnya, Tatarstan, Dagestan, as well as territories that existed long ago like Circassia. Washington analysts have long aspired to break up foreign nations. During the Cold War, the US provided assistance to separatist groups in the USSR. In the 1990s, NATO, led by the US, dismembered Yugoslavia. Moreover, Washington has supported separatist movements in Tibet, Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Richard Dick Cheney, who was the vice president of US from 2001 to 9, had similar goals. He wanted to slice up Russia in smaller parts after USSR collapsed. In 1997, Zbigniew Brzezinski, the former US National Security Advisor, wrote an article for Foreign Affairs magazine that proposed the formation of a loosely confederated Russia consisting of a European Russia, a Siberian Republic, and a Far Eastern Republic. So, here is the big picture. US and EU were planning big time to break up Russia after USSR was taken down. However, in later years, the plan was abandoned, and in fact, a new plan was put in place to control Russia through the Kremlin. A West friendly liberal president named Boris Yeltsin was picked up for the job. Under his rule, Russia forgot its true legacy. It was turned into a confused nation without a real purpose, without solid leadership. Russia sometimes viewed itself as a multicultural federation, sometimes as a nation state, and sometimes as an empire. During this period, many in the West supported Boris Yeltsin and Vladimir Putin's involvement in the global war on terror, and therefore the wars in Chechnya and other regions were not treated as an issue of significance. But everything changed in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea. Vladimir Putin turned out to be a tough nut to crack. He stood up to NATO's expansion eastwards, and therefore he became the West's rabid enemy. And since then, the West, led by US, has worked on plans to distort Russian boundaries. So don't be surprised if Russian volunteer corps turn out to be a US backed asset, the same asset that is fueling separatism against the Kremlin in Russia. But the West doesn't realize such a plan would prove to be suicidal in long run, and this plan is fundamentally not feasible at all. Why? Because Russia is not a highly diverse country. Approximately 80% of population here is of Russian ethnicity, 80. Why would they draw artificial boundaries among themselves? That sounds stupid, right? And even if it happens, a broken Russia will emerge as a great national security threat for US itself. A weak Russia, a broken Russia will become an easy target for China. China will quickly expand its influence in the region. It will get to control Central Asia and Eastern Europe. And in no time, it will be knocking on the doors of Alaska. A unified Russia, on the other hand, provides for a distraction for Beijing and limits its grip on Central and Northeastern Asia. Secondly, even the idea of breaking up a nuclear nation is incendiary itself. Former President and Prime Minister of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, once said, breaking up a nuclear power was akin to playing a chess game with death. He said it for a reason. And last year, Russia sent out a clear message. World shall not survive without Russia. The state TV presenter said, why do we need a world if Russia is not in it? He meant if Russia's existence is threatened, Russia will launch a nuclear war on the world. And there is the other basic question. Is US even qualified to question Russia's existence?
America is in no position to pretend to be the guardian of democracy and human rights. You are the worst perpetrator of atrocities. You, in Barack Obama in 2011, intervened in a nascent Libyan civil war, using the NATO and Arab League partners, prolonging the war for 1 decade. You launched armed conflict in at least 6 countries. Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Niger. You carry out drone strikes. You've killed thousands with your drone strikes. You run Guantanamo Bay, where you run it on a 1,000-year-old ridiculous lease. You dropped atom bombs, killing 1,99,000 people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
So it is high time US and the West stop acting like the global police. Its intervention in Russia through proxies is only going to invite more problems for the world. And frankly speaking, it is not even strong enough to realize such a wild fantasy.